Why, hello there, and welcome to my YouTube channel. And today, I want to go over some more things about Dragon Raja. Okay, I want to go over more about stats and builds and how to get stronger. Okay, so right now I'm pulling up my Dragon Slayer results. So as you can see, I'm ranked number 7. Now, if you look at all the other people around me, including Danny, Zealot, the Thought, and Chaos, Chubby Panda, those guys are all extremely very powerful, and I'm only 130k, but I'm still able to kind of hang with these people. So as you can see, I'm rank 31, which is 131k, and then as we go up, you can see Hokari, Danny, Thought, TT, and whatnot, and they are all top 10 in Dragon Slayer and I'm also side by side with them as well, competing for that top 10. So there's a huge gap between our ratings. So that's how I know, that's how I can gauge that, okay, my skill rotation, my stats, my build, it's actually pretty competitive. So what I'm doing is, not wrong, in my opinion, because I'm able to hang with higher rating players. So now that I showed you guys that, I want to show you guys what I'm doing in Dragon Slayer to get those results and to explain more about the stats that I've learned to optimize my gunslinger. So I didn't want this video to be too long, so I started out around level 100, okay? So probably the only things that I actually switched to this build compared to my last guide was I switched out Devil's Wind for Hawkeye. And the reason why I switched out Hawkeye is because it does have a 120-second cooldown, but that means I get to use it at least one time in each of these rounds. Now, it's very important that you have Hawkeye for your main burst, for when you have your Heat Blast, your Shockwave, for your A-Particle Cannon. And that Hawkeye is going to last for the full duration of Heat Blast with its special talent where it hits the target 3 times. That's an extra 35% bonus damage on your Heat Blast for those 3 times, which is very powerful. Okay, so I made it very important to time my my Hawkeye with my Heat Blast, my A-Particle Cannon, and my my Shockwave. So as you can see here, I'm doing max burst damage, just melting through it. So we're going to see how far I can go. And, we're going to talk about, some stats along the way. And do some, questions and answers and whatnot. So mainly what I see a lot are, people, asking me about, their cores and, what to focus on and, stat-wise and whatnot. So, I've played MMOs for a very long time, and if you think about it, most of the damage formulas in the DPS, they all cross over from game to game. If not, the formula changes here and there, but a lot of it is very similar. So if you have that common knowledge from other games, you could apply it to here, and you can kind of do just as well. So basically, you really want to focus on your crit rate and your multi-strike. Now, it's really debatable because your crit rate and your multi-strike are pretty much proc rates, okay? Now, you have to gouge them. You got to put stats into them, enough into them to make them feel reliable. Now, reliable can be different for everyone, so reliable, in my opinion, is a 40% to 60% proc rate. Now, to accomplish a 40 to 60% proc rate for your crit and your multi-strike, I would recommend gouging them to 30 to 40k. After that, you're going to be hitting some major diminishing returns. So, on my crit rate, I actually did some studying. So, I actually took Truffles the bear, and I took him aside, level 120 bear, and I actually did 1,000 hits on him just to see how much my crit rate was. And 1,000 hits is a perfect sample to get a good generalization on what your crit rate is. And I tried to make my crit level around 30,000, as close as I could get, just so I could see it. And from the data I got, it was around 35 to 45 to 50%, just in that area, okay? But I'm not like very too sure because crit resist is an actual thing in this game. So I think it's safe to assume that having a crit level of 30,000 to 40,000 is a good solid 40% crit rate. If not, just a tiny bit lower, depending on their crit level resistance, okay? So, now if you ask me, should I keep gouging my crit level to get my crit rate to go higher? Now, there's this thing like that we like to call in most video games called diminishing returns. Now, if you were to try to get your crit rate to, I don't know, like 60%, how much would you have to gouge your crit level to actually get to that threshold? Okay, so my crit level is 30,000 to get, which is a 35 to 40% crit rate. I would have to gouge my crit level to around 70,000 to 80,000 just to get a measly 10% more crit rate. Because think about it, guys. Just because I'm doubling my crit level doesn't mean I'm going to double the percentage of my crit rate. That is just how diminishing returns works, okay? It works based on a curve, on a graph, okay? The higher you go, the more or the less 1 point of crit level, the less value 1 point of crit level will be to you, okay? So you'll never have a 100% crit rate. You would have to gouge your stat extremely high to get past these thresholds to actually make it there. So you would need like a 60 to 70k crit level to actually get to a 60% crit rate. And then after that, you're going to hit even more diminishing returns. You would have to have 140k crit level to actually get to 70% crit rate. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So that's how crit works in this game. So you actually have to find the threshold that you're comfortable with and then work with that, and then stop gouging that stat and then start working on other stats that do not have diminishing returns yet or does not have a ceiling, like physical attack, wind attack, or any of those things of that nature. Now next, another thing that people have been commenting on is my skill rotation. So, in my opinion, gunslingers are probably the best burst damage class. Like, I really like how they're very, very bursty, and that's what Hawkeye is for, which makes them super bursty. Hawkeye is the one reason alone why they're so bursty, because every 2 minutes they have that opportunity to just put out massive, insane damage just to melt the enemy, okay? So, people have been going up to me and they're saying, no, burst isn't everything, it's more about like static DPS. So what they've been doing is they've been auto-canceling their first or their second or third hit on their guns from their gunslinger, okay? I mean, you can do that, it could be viable, but what they're doing to auto-cancel their auto attack is by wasting their cooldowns just for the sake of auto-canceling. So they'll use their Heat Blast, the EX skills, their Wind Blast, and their Pulsing Bomb just to do auto-canceling. Now, I wouldn't say it's like extremely bad. It looks extremely fast for DPS-wise, but in my opinion, you're not getting the full benefit from Hawkeye, the stealth crit bonus, and all of that good stuff, because you're not really coordinating with your buffs. When you get your buffs, you gotta use it and optimize it to its full ability to actually push past very difficult content. I actually think that an auto-canceling for the third or second hit would be great, but the way it is done by wasting your cooldowns, I see it as inefficient. If there was a way to cancel your auto attack on the third hit by stutter stepping or by doing something that does not involve wasting your cooldowns, then I could actually see it as being very viable. I mean, you can still cancel your auto attack by using Pulse Bomb and Devil's Wind, but I wouldn't use other skills that are very important for your burst rotation to actually get that maximum benefit from Hawk Wind, Heat Blast, and Shockwave, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, like, I've been watching a whole bunch of other gunslinger guides, and, like, I feel like I'm, like, a total outlier. Like, I'm doing something completely different. I'm like, holy crap, like, you guys are doing something totally different, and I'm over here, like, this needs to be optimized, this needs to be optimized. I need to do max damage in this time frame of seconds of when these buffs are active, but instead they think more of, oh, I need to see those damage numbers up there constantly as fast as possible. So there's a little bit difference in thinking on how to optimize. I mean, attack speed is a great value, but I don't think it's the end all be all to actually optimize your build. Alright, so next question. People have been asking me a lot about defense ignore and whatnot. Now, defense ignore is a little tricky, okay? So in most games, defense ignore doesn't really do much in terms of like damage, okay? So if you look at my skill, okay, it'll tell you how much damage it does. It'll say Pulse Bomb. It deals 219,465 physical damage. Now, where it gets that number is from your physical attack and your wind attack, maybe. So the higher your physical attack, the higher that number is going to change on your Pulse Bomb, okay? Now, that number is not going to be, like, truth. It's not, like, solid, okay? That's just the number you get before you hit your target, okay? Your damage has to go through a damage check through their defenses. It has to go through their damage mitigation, whether they have like a buff up that decreases damage by 50%, and it has to go through their actual defenses, their physical defense, and it might also have to go through a bubble, that's something that absorbs damage. So there's a lot of mechanics in here that could alter that number from your Pulse Bomb, okay? So it's not going to be the true number. Now, what defense ignore does is no matter how much their defense lowers your skill level or your attack from your Pulse Bomb, defense ignore closes that gap to make that actual number in your skill set more accurate. Does that make... I hope that makes sense. So if you were to stack like all, I don't know, if you were to stack all defense ignore and then you weren't really prioritizing your crit or your multi-strike, and you're keeping that and you're prioritizing it, well, you're going to be lowering your proc rates on your crit and your multi-strike for the sake of ignoring defense. Now, the thing about that is that that number on your Pulse Bomb, 219k, that's not going to go any higher if you raise your AP level. That stays the same, okay? There's a ceiling. You're never, no matter how much AP or AP level or defense ignore you have, you're not going to go higher past that Pulse Bomb that does 219k for me. It's not going to go higher. So as I see it, it's more of like a supplement to make that number actually accurate, and then I could use my crit to actually multiply that by ×2. Okay. Now, I'm not very sure on how defense ignore works in this game. It could be so that your AP level is an actual reduction of their dual defense of both defenses, okay? Or it could actually be a percentage based on a curve that has diminishing returns. So say that I have 30,000 AP level, I ignore 20 to 30% defense. Who knows? I'm not really sure. But it's not something that I would actually prioritize. The one thing that you do need to know is when you're gouging your physical attack, you always have to make sure your physical attack is doubled your opponent's defenses, okay? So you'll still be doing that really good damage, alright? And it'll still be doing the same damage as you would be having if you would have 100% defense ignore. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if that makes sense. So say if you like prioritized your AP level and then you'd have your physical attack was lowered because of it, you'd be doing the same damage as if you were to gouge your physical attack stat and not prioritize your AP level, because it's just like that little what's it called? It's so hard to explain, but I will try again anyways. I'm really bad explaining how like this would work. So say you would prioritize your AP level, okay, and you have a very high defense ignore, but at the cost of having your physical attack stat being lowered and all your proc rates being lowered, okay? Now you would do much less DPS compared to if you were to gouge your physical attack stat to be doubled their defense and have very high proc rates in your crit and your multi-strike, okay? You get way more benefits because your physical attack being so high makes up for not having so much defense ignore, and you can still have very high proc rates and multiply that damage via crit and whatnot. So I would only see it as a supplement. Again, just as a supplement, okay? I wouldn't really focus on it. It's not the end-all, be-all. So if it's very low for you, around 15 to 20k, that's totally okay. Same thing with cooldown reduction. You don't need to have a shit ton of cooldown reduction, alright? Because that's also a percentage too, and I'm pretty sure the diminishing returns on that are way more worse than any other stat in this game. So say you have 20k cooldown reduction, I'm pretty sure that's a 20% cooldown reduction on all your skills. To get that to even be 30%, you would need like, I don't know, 40 to 50k cooldown reduction, and then for it to be like, I don't know, 40% cooldown reduction, I saw that it'd have to be way higher, because there's actually a chart that one of the Chinese players put out, and the curve for cooldown reduction is actually different than the curve for crit level and multi-strike. It's way worse. So I would keep your cooldown reduction the same as your AP level. So like around like, how would I prioritize it? I would go physical attack, then crit level, then multi-strike, and then crit damage for sure. And then I would go cooldown reduction, or I would go AP level and then cooldown reduction, okay? Also keep in mind that there's also diminishing returns on your crit level and your multi-strike, so eventually as those get too high, you're going to hit diminishing returns, so the priority is going to change eventually. So it'll just be like physical attack, wind attack, and then you'd start focusing on like your defenses like constitution and stuff, because your proc rates are already so high. It's not going to be worth to actually go up to the next threshold, because 1 point of crit level or multi-strike is not going to have the same value as it did, I don't know, 10k points below when you were stacking it before, okay? Ugh, man, that's a lot of talking, but I really hope I answered all of your guys' questions. I really did answer them to the best of my abilities and whatnot, so... And I really hope you guys are enjoying the Dragon Slayer video. Oh, that's when I died. Okay, so I was barely even paying attention to that Dragon Slayer. Okay, because I was too busy explaining. But yeah, this one is really hard, so as you could see, ooh, got all my goodies. Beating records all day, every day. Alright, so as you can see, my rating's like 133k, and then the suggested rating is almost 400k. So, I almost like... They want me to be like tripled my current rating just to do that content, which is pretty crazy. So, I'm gonna try one more time, just to see... I'm gonna try everything with the Hawkeye Max Burst, and let's see if I can burst this spider down. What really gives me trouble is the babies that come out. And I have to build energy too for my A particle cannon. And those fuckers also slow me down with their webs too. And the Hawkeye, a particle cannon, let's see how it goes. I mean, that wasn't too bad, not too bad. I did like half his health. But still, holy shit, they do so much damage to me. I might have to try it again, but using, like, I think it was the EX Fire skill. Someone told me to use EX Fire to get through that, the Ice Spider, but I've never tried it. So yeah, guys, I think that's it for me. I hope I answered all of your questions. I have to get going now. Peace.